On August 13, 2025, a powerful tropical cyclone, Typhoon Podul, made landfall along the southeastern coast of Taiwan, bringing devastating winds, torrential rainfall, and widespread social disruption. This typhoon was one of the stronger storms in this year's Pacific typhoon season and among the most severe recent weather events to impact Taiwan. At around 1 p.m. that afternoon, according to real-time data released by the Central Weather Administration, Podul officially made landfall along the coast near Taichung City, Taiwan. At this time, the storm center displayed a distinct convective cloud system, with maximum sustained winds reaching 191 kilometers per hour, about 118 miles per hour, equivalent to a Category 2 hurricane on the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale. The powerful winds, accompanied by surging waves, repeatedly battered the coastal breakwaters. Experts stated that such wind speeds were strong enough to topple large numbers of trees, tear off rooftops, and even cause structural damage to some older buildings. Crossed southern Taiwan from east to west at a speed of about 36 kilometers per hour, approximately 22 miles per hour, with its path sweeping across several densely populated coastal cities and inland towns. By evening, the storm center had entered the Taiwan Strait, but its outer circulation still covered the entire island, with rainfall and strong winds continuing in multiple areas until late at night. Although wind speed slightly decreased after landfall, the typhoon's destructive power did not diminish. Local government officials described it as a fast and fierce strike that placed enormous pressure on disaster prevention and relief agencies. As of official reports, the typhoon had caused 1 death, 1 person missing, and at least 33 people injured to varying degrees. Among the injured were residents who suffered fractures from being struck by falling debris, as well as tourists trapped by landslides. Most of the injured were concentrated in coastal and mountainous areas, and in some regions, emergency medical resources were nearly saturated in a short period. To meet sudden medical demands, multiple hospitals in Taiwan temporarily added beds, with all medical staff on standby. In the wind and rain, rescue personnel risked their lives wading into flooded streets and using rubber boats to evacuate trapped residents. Firefighting and police units jointly established an emergency command center to coordinate rescue forces in real time. Local media reported that in a mountainous area of Taitung, a search and rescue team hiked 5 kilometers, traversing multiple mudslide zones, and successfully brought 4 trapped villagers to safety. To prevent the disaster from further escalating, the Taiwanese authorities had activated an emergency evacuation plan before the typhoon made landfall. More than 5,500 residents living in low-lying areas, near riverbanks, and in zones prone to landslides were urgently relocated. The evacuation operation mobilized local governments, the military, and various emergency rescue teams, transferring residents in batches to temporary shelters. These shelters were equipped with basic living supplies, including folding beds, blankets, drinking water, and ready-to-eat food. Volunteer organizations also participated in the resettlement work, providing special care for the elderly, children, and those with limited mobility. Although the conditions were simple, for residents who had lost their homes in the storm, these shelters were their only safe haven. The typhoon's impact on the transportation system was particularly severe, especially in aviation and maritime transport. By late afternoon on August 13, the number of canceled flights had exceeded 400, including 252 domestic flights and 155 international flights. China Airlines and EVA Air both announced the suspension of all flights to and from Kaohsiung and Taoyuan international airports. Large numbers of passengers were stranded at airports, with waiting halls packed to capacity and repeated announcements of flight cancellations or delays echoing over the loudspeakers. Maritime transportation also came to a halt. All ferry services to offshore islands such as Penghu, Kinmen, and Matsu were urgently suspended to prevent accidents in the rough sea conditions. Some coastal railway lines were forced to suspend operations temporarily due to loosened roadbeds caused by heavy rain erosion. For people who had planned to leave or travel to other areas before the typhoon, this series of transportation disruptions undoubtedly increased the uncertainty of their journeys. Risks, 9 counties and cities in southern Taiwan, including Kaohsiung, Tainan, and Taichung, announced a complete suspension of classes and work. This decision not only reduced the likelihood of the public going out during the typhoon, but also freed up more road resources for emergency departments to allow rescue vehicles to pass. Meanwhile, the government issued emergency warnings to the public through multiple channels such as television, radio, and social media, urging everyone to stay indoors and away from dangerous areas. The rainfall brought by Podul was astonishing, with some areas receiving as much as 600 millimeters, about 24 inches, of accumulated precipitation within 24 hours, especially in the central mountain range and other mountainous areas. Such a large amount of rainfall can easily trigger floods and landslides, and Taiwan's unique terrain, where mountainous areas account for more than 2/3 of the land, further increases the risk of geological disasters. In places such as Hualien and Nantou, some mountain roads were completely buried by mudslides, cutting off villages from the outside world. Rescue teams had to airdrop supplies by helicopter. Geological experts warned that even after the typhoon had moved away, slopes could still collapse after prolonged rainfall, and residents should remain vigilant. The southeastern agricultural region bore the brunt of the impact. This area is primarily engaged in the cultivation of rice, vegetables, and fruits, and many farmlands were flooded, with some mature crops almost completely wiped out. Farmers Association stated that if the weather remains unstable in the coming days, agricultural losses could further expand, and the overall agricultural output value for the year is expected to take a significant hit. Economists pointed out that in addition to agriculture, tourism, transportation, and the retail sector would also experience short-term impacts from the typhoon. In particular, the interruption of the peak summer tourism season led to the temporary closure of multiple scenic spots and hotels, causing a sharp drop in tourism revenue. As of the evening of August 13th, Podul had left Taiwan, entered the Taiwan Strait, and was moving toward the coastal areas of Fujian in mainland China. The local governments of Fujian and Guangdong provinces quickly raised their emergency response levels and issued typhoon warnings. Meteorological departments predicted that although the typhoon might weaken after crossing the sea, the heavy rainfall and storm surges it carried could still cause severe disasters. In the coming days and to comply with evacuation orders when necessary. They also advised avoiding low-lying areas and coastlines to prevent being caught in storm surges and large waves. The government has pledged to immediately launch cleanup and reconstruction efforts once the typhoon has fully left the region, including clearing road obstructions, repairing damaged power facilities, and delivering relief supplies to the hardest-hit areas. This typhoon, Podul, dealt a multifaceted blow to Taiwan, causing casualties, damaging infrastructure, and disrupting economic activities, all of which put pressure on the functioning of society. Although the storm has left Taiwan, its impact will linger for some time. The international community is also closely monitoring the typhoon's trajectory and the progress of post-disaster relief, with many countries and regions expressing their condolences and willingness to provide aid to Taiwan. We urge residents to remain vigilant, closely follow weather updates and official information, and take timely measures to protect themselves and their families. During typhoon season, every act of prevention and preparation can save lives. Thank you for watching. If you found this episode helpful, please like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our disaster coverage. Some footage is for illustration purposes only and not from the actual scene. See you in the next episode. Stay tuned and stay safe.